Need some elevator waiting music.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're live. So I'm just going to check that. Beautiful, we're live. So welcome everyone to this special event between, pardon me, special event between seasons with the CloutForum. So CloutForum is a space which is really just creating an opportunity for people in the community to get out, get to meet each other, get to show what they're doing, and to explore all the amazing people on the platform. And so today we have a special event, what do you call that? Pre-season demonstration with our wonderful, my brain's gone, Hunter Paulson. Hunter, we were just talking about this, man. We were talking about getting that tagged wrong, right? It was like H. Paulson is your tag on BitClout. And then we're putting Hunter Paulson because we keep on putting your full name. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking about Hunter Thompson. And here I am doing your introduction going, who am I talking about again? I've gotten lost. So this is Hunter Paulson. Hunter, welcome. You're not new to CloutForum. The last time you were on here, we had a very passionate and fascinating discussion with the incredible Raj Lahoti. And it was really beautiful watching the way you held that and the way you guys really worked together and talked together. And so welcome back again.
Yeah, for sure. That previous conversation was an interesting one, right? I think it was a very cool part of the original CloutForum like line of events, right? So yeah, it's great to be back. I'm happy tonight we're going to talk about some really fun stuff. Last conversation was like a little more well, you said passionate. I think that's a great word. It was like maybe a little heated, but it was good. It was productive, and it was a great conversation. I think it set a good model almost for how debates like that should occur in our community. So I think that conversation was great, and I can't wait to talk tonight and have a good time.
Awesome, man. And big shout out to Mubs who's with us in the chat here, and he said controversial. I think that's another beautiful word to describe that. Huh? Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Hunter. I think it's that was what I came away with, and something that I'm really passionate about myself is here on BitClout. So those watching the replay, by the way, because this is live streamed onto YouTube, Twitch. If you want to pop any comments, etc., we'll be taking any questions and things in there as well. And you can also join us live in the Zoom room. You can find all the links at cloutforum.org, and you can jump in and join us in the chat with any questions and comments and things. But this is something that absolutely, we need is we're giving birth, right, to a whole new way of being that's never been done before. So we don't know what's right and wrong as we move forwards, but it's going to be important that we can talk, right, that we can have these conversations that are a little bit uncomfortable without needing to take it personal. And you did that so beautifully. So before we go, Hunter, into the modern time and what's ahead, how are things since, just out of curiosity for myself, with Raj and the rest, have you guys had much to do with each other, or just kind of doing your own things in the
actually we did for a period of time, just as a follow-up. It was interesting, right? So after that conversation, he did a lot of the things he said he would, right? Him and I actually had like a 2-hour phone call like 3 days later, which was interesting, right? Because like I didn't really want to talk to the guy. But no, he was very friendly. We talked about like kind of who he is, because I didn't know the guy off platform, and dmv.org, and he told me about he owns a ton of domains, and he was telling me about that, and he told me about like the games and why my thought process about him didn't really make sense from like a personal point of view rather than from a like logistics point of view, like we talked about on here, and all that fun stuff. So it was interesting. I think my opinion of him has definitely changed. And all the things he said he did. Like when we had that phone call, he mentioned to me, like he said he was going to stop the FR games, even though he didn't say it publicly on here when I asked him to. He said, it made sense. He wanted to add utility to his coin instead. And he made the Raj pool account, I think, or something like that. And he stopped on his main, and, I think he improved. And it's interesting how some of like the sort of like mysterious evil figures, I say that in air quotes because it's kind of like a way over exaggerated term to use, but Mario is another example of that, where a lot of people didn't really like him in April, and he improved. He changed a lot of the things he was doing, and now he's liked. I like the guy. I used to hate the guy, and it's very interesting. I think Raj kind of took the same path, and I think it's great. And our community is very forgiving, and like none of that stuff really matters anymore. So it's very cool.
Yeah. No, that's well put, man. And thanks for giving us that little update. It's really nice to hear, right? That it's not just this once-off show thing that gets done on the outside, but behind the scenes, you know, and that's where I think a lot of people who are new to BitClout might not realize just how much is going on, you know, behind the scenes, underneath the obvious stuff where it can seem like, oh, but the community
it's almost
is amazing.
unfortunate too, right? Because this is like kind of sort of related, but a lot of that is happening off platform, and it's really hard for people to sort of get the gist of like, okay, what's going on, especially new users. But no, I think it's definitely good that those conversations occur, and that, you know, and the same thing occurred with Mario. Like, it was basically an identical experience, except with Mario, it was all on platform. Like, him and I had a small debate on platform about if what he did was wrong or not. And then we talked, and I explained, hey, here's what you're doing. Maybe do this to improve. And he did. And now I like the guy. So, you know, I think it's interesting. I don't think we have any more of those characters right now that are like, that I think at least are like destroying the platform, because that's what I thought they were doing, at least. So no, it's great. I think we've definitely improved, even though things are kind of sluggish right now, which we'll get into. Like, you know, we've improved, and I think we're in a great spot. Community.
Indeed, man. Indeed. I've been well impressed, you know, for the time that we've been here and the time we've all been working together, to see the cohesion, to see the way we can, you know, it really has been role modeling what decentralization is all about, right? Self-correction, you know, that artificial intelligence is really just replicating the ability that we have as humans, right? And so it's good to see that in action, and it's playing out.
It's like, hey, I made this mistake, and you can verify the mistake I made. It's on the blockchain, but I improved, and you can verify my improvement too. And I think that's cool.
Absolutely, right.
Mistakes are a very important part of life, right? It's like, you have to make them. And I think it's cool with decentralized social, because you can't delete a post. And that has its negatives. But it also has its positives, in that you can go back and you can see, okay, you said this, you now disagree with what you said. So you can see where people change over time, some which is good, some might be bad. But I think right now, a lot of what we've seen is very good, and it's honestly great. You know, there's no, oh, you said this 3 months ago, I'm going to cancel you. Like, no, it's, oh, you said this 3 months ago, you learned and changed. That's great. Good job. Right. Go on BitClout. There's no hate comments, bro. They don't exist. Actually, Tiffany Trump posted about this, and she said, like, look at her Twitter page compared to her BitClout page, bro. It's night and day. Because she doesn't post anything political, and it's great. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
So
I saw that post on. I was just going to say, I saw that post on the Clout feed last night, and you know, it's like watching, and like they were saying, the difference in the comments under her posts. You know, it really comes down to
her most recent Twitter post, bro. Oh my god,
it's wild, right? And it speaks a lot to, you know, something I'm a big advocate for, is that the environment we create does a lot for what it brings out of people's kind of genetics, you know, their behavior, whether it's survival behavior, and you get that fighting if they feel threatened. Whereas if they feel safe, which BitClout's been doing a pretty good job of, then that you don't get the shadow side, you don't get the fighting, you get that more positive co-creative, you know?
Yeah, I think it's great, the community we've built so far. I think now, which almost segues into our main conversation, I think now is more about, okay, here's development. We need people to use the protocol. We need people to actually use this thing. The people here are great, and I think that is an important first step. But where do we go?
And absolutely, that is a great segue, because we can talk all we like about, you know, the magic of what's happening, and we're going to have plenty of time for that in the days and weeks ahead. But right now, I think what would be great is to really help people understand, you know, what you're doing, Hunter, because you're doing a lot behind the scenes, right? You got some big projects going on.
Yeah. So first, I'd like to sort of intro with my vision for Clout and how I think we reach mass adoption. And I've been talking about this a lot, especially in the past couple of weeks, because I think people have the wrong idea about this platform. And here's what I mean by that. I don't think mass adoption is people using bitclout.com or anything that looks anything like it, period. I don't think that's mass adoption. Even if I don't think that Twitter users, a majority of them, would migrate to bitclout.com, because what value is there added? Creator coins and founder reward and NFTs. Okay, NFTs, people outside of crypto don't really care about. Creator coins are confusing, and founder reward, the average user doesn't care. Celebrities do, the average user doesn't, right? And so I don't think that's enough, which is fine. That's perfectly fine, because I don't think your mass adoption comes from people using a Twitter clone. I don't think that's where it comes. I think where your mass adoption comes is people using products that use Clout but aren't for clout. And I've used that sentence a lot, especially in the past couple of weeks, because I think that's where we reach mass adoption. And my sort of vision is something like this. And I've used this analogy a lot as well, is that I think clout should be, or at least could be, sort of how the internet was adopted, in that everyone uses the internet, but very few people that use it know what TCP/IP is. They don't know the protocols that they're using. We're on this Zoom call. I'm sure you couldn't list every protocol we're using right now to communicate. Of course not. That'd be ridiculous, right? And so I think that's where clout will be. It will be just one of those protocols, but rather than being TCP/IP of Web 2, it'll be clout of Web 3, the same as Ethereum will be Ethereum as Web 3. Bitcoin is a protocol for monetary transactions, and Ethereum is for a lot of programmatic transactions, and clout would be for social transactions. And I think that's sort of where it fits. Products would be built that are not clones of existing social medias. I don't think that makes very much sense, but rather new, unique products that do their own things. Instagram got popular because of filters, and Snapchat got popular because of stories, and Facebook got popular because of old people. We need, like, having a Twitter clone that has creator coins. I don't know, man. I don't think that's going to do it. I think what's going to do it is a brand new, unique company or platform, or not one, but multiple of these that are utilizing the protocol. And not necessarily utilizing the entire protocol, but maybe, they utilize posts and DMs and creator coins, but not NFTs. And maybe another platform utilizes only NFTs. And we're already seeing that with Polygram, for example. They only use NFTs. Their whole platform, they only use NFTs. And they can be an NFT platform, and they can continue expanding upon what they already have. And so I think that's what we need is, like I said, projects and products and companies that use clout but aren't for clout, because that then attracts, it sort of creates a chain of opportunities towards mass adoption. So if I build a product that happens to use clout behind the scenes, I get my own users the same way any product would. Those users are now using clout, whether they realize it or not, because my product relies on clout, which then makes transactions go higher. There's more users, the clout price goes up, which is great for all of us. But mass adoption is more important than that, in my opinion. But nonetheless, it's great. And so I think that's where we need to be. A lot of people, I think, are confused and think that, I reject the idea that BitClout is strictly a social media protocol, but rather it's a social protocol. And I think there's a large difference there. Whereas, for sure, you could have so many things, or maybe someone makes like a Venmo where it's clout, and instead of sending to, your Cash App tag or your Venmo tag, whatever, or instead of sending to some random address, I send to your social media profile, right? And so you can combine things. And I think that's where it gets really interesting. I think another approach, and I'll talk about this a little later, is like using algorithmic, like using the chain in an algorithmic way, where maybe I'm using BitClout so I'm using a product, and that product is using BitClout, but not through me. Like, I don't have a BitClout account, but I'm still using BitClout. I just don't have an account because the product does, and I don't. And the product communicates with the protocol, who communicates back to the product, who then communicates to me. And so it's a middleman. And I think we're going to see a lot of that, or at least I hope so, because I think that's where we build. And products that integrate more things than just clout. Like right now, we see tons of them. Just scroll down your feed, dude. Every single person on BitClout right now is trying to be an NFT artist or a project CEO, right? Like everybody. And I think that's a problem. And I said this the other night with ASG, in that we need just regular people, like people who just like post about spilling their beer. Like, we just need regular old people to post. And I think that's not going to come from a Twitter clone, because the benefits of BitClout right now, if you really think about it, the benefits of BitClout right now only exist if you're doing something. You make money if there's financial incentives, if you have an NFT series, if you're building a project, if you're doing these things. There's not really many financial incentives, unfortunately, if you're just posting about spilling your beer, because people aren't buying your creator coin, right? And so I think a lot of the people on the platform right now are really ambitious, like founder type, entrepreneur type, artist type people. And I think we need just like regular, like, everyday people that walk down the street. I think a lot of the people we have on BitClout right now are like almost too great, right? I think we have like the amazing percentage of people, and now we just need like the regular percentage of people. And
it's almost like the green room behind a show, right? You know, it's like
exactly.
all the performers are gathered together, but there's no audience.
Yeah, there's no audience. Exactly. And that makes it tough, right? Because when I scroll through my feed, and the other thing is that BitClout's not local. And I think this is another problem in that. Go on Twitter, or not Twitter. Twitter's kind of a bad example, but go on Instagram, go scroll through your feed. There's a good chance that like 60% maybe of those people. Because you follow your friends and your family and things like that. You follow some celebrities too, but you follow your friends and family. And that doesn't exist on BitClout, right? You scroll down your feed and you see new NFT series, and you see 50 of the same like data analysis platform with a different front end. It's just like, I think we're to the point now where, in April, we shouted a lot about, hey, be a builder, build, support builders, building is how we create a good ecosystem. And we took the wrong direction in that we have a lot of projects right now that honestly just aren't really very good. And it's not even that they're not good. It's just that they're only for BitClout users. And that's a very small market. And you're basically just creating a meta environment where, okay, I'm already on BitClout and I'm using your BitClout product, but how is that attracting new people to the platform? It's not. It's only attractive to me because I'm here. I use this every day, right? And so I think more products need to be created that attract regular people, and even just new people who say like, oh, this is a new product. It has a feature, a unique, cool, it's a new product completely. It's not a clone with some added stuff. It's a brand new product. And I don't care that it uses this cryptocurrency behind the scenes. I like the product and I'm going to use the product. And now I'm on BitClout, I guess, but okay, I don't really care. And I think that's where we need to end up. How we get there is an interesting ride. I think we need a lot more serious companies, and I say companies instead of projects for a reason. I think we need a lot more. We need a lot more demand for Clout, I think, for the financial incentive to be there to use Clout over another chain. But even using Clout as like a plain storage network, I think is phenomenal. Like if you're generating user content, I see no reason why you're not using Clout. Even if the users themselves don't have profiles, you have one profile and then you submit posts with metadata. It's really, really easy, right? And so things like that, I think Clout's very valuable even without social media, which is why I mentioned that I think it's a social protocol.
Yeah, and Hunter, I think this is such an important thing. We just lost your video there, my man. It's such an important thing that you're touching on there. You know, when it comes to really stretching our imaginations, right? And that's what I see kind of happening right now is you know, like you're saying with the start of the internet, right? When the internet first came out, everyone said, oh, websites, that's a stupid idea. But then all of a sudden, everyone was just rushing with trying to come up with like map things, with website things, with this and with that, and like you say, whenever there's a big influx, it's like you watch crypto, right? How many, pardon my expression, but how many shit coins were born from it, right? That were just, and there's, you know, I've been part of it. I'm sure we've all done it when we got into Bitcoin, got so excited and pumped that we think, oh, this is a great idea. And we go straight to creating a profile and start selling the coin. And it's like you say, it's a bit different to a company that goes the other way, that says, let's get the concept, let's get the business plan, let's get the proposition forward, then let's kind of go in for that longer term. And so in that sense, it's like I think we were talking about before the call a little bit, that, you know, mistakes are an important part of life, you know, that mistakes are how evolution works, right? We try something, we feel, we see what happens, and then we respond to that. You know, what doesn't work,
exactly
we go, okay,
done, Mark. Right? That's exactly what we've done.
Yeah. You know? And so now we're at that part where I see with this season 2, this phase 2 that we're moving into with BitClout, it's now like this conversation that you're having right now is going to be such a fundamental one, I think, to the conversation, to break people's kind of dogmatic thought, thinking that, you know, BitClout is a social media platform, as opposed to that's one way that it can express itself.
Yes.
But rather it's a mechanic that can be plugged into pretty much everything, and create a kind of unified social interaction that's decentralized. You know, politics could be affected by this, you know, all kinds of economics, you know, if it was to be adopted on a mass scale.
And I think that's you explained that beautifully. And I think that's fundamental, right? we've already lived through these mistakes, and tons of them on cloud, whether people realize it or not. Like, I'll use April as the example. Everyone was told, be a builder, build, support builders. Like, go, like, query Clout on the word builders in April. I'm telling you, dude, like, seriously, and May included. So many. And I think we got so focused on build and not build good, right? And for developers,
small
that's
distinction,
thing, right? I could like, dude, there's engineers who can build like shit products like nothing, right? And open source them, bro. Like, that's what open source is 99% of the time. And then the 1% of the time it's good products that, open source works. But most of the projects on GitHub that are open source, for example, are just dog shit. No one's going to use them, right? And I think that's kind of what happened to Clout, is that everyone wanted to be a builder. And so we learned from our mistakes, and now we're saying, or at least I'm saying, I don't know if everyone's saying it, but we're saying, okay, don't just build, but build good, build valuable, build towards the vision. And I think maybe even the core team is a little out of line with build smart. Mub said in chat, beautiful. Yeah. We can't, I think there's a large distinction between a project, and this is why I use the word company a lot. I think there's a large distinction between a company and a product. If you have registered an entity for your product that happens to use Clout, then I automatically perceive you as more legitimate. And you could go on and on about decentralization, this, that, but products will be centralized. They just have to be, I think, or maybe not have to be, but should be almost.
At least in the beginning, right, where we're having a bridging between this, because you need trust, right? Sure. Trust is an important thing.
For sure. Yeah. It's like, if you have gone through the paperwork, like, bro, I've done it. It's not a fun process. If you've gone through the paperwork, especially if you're a corporation, bro, if you're a Delaware C Corp, I trust you. Like, I believe it. Bro, literally, I don't have my binder, but bro, like, this thick of paperwork, it was hell. Great fun. Reading that was not enjoyable at all. But nonetheless, it's like, if you have formed an entity, like, you have put your name in public record under this company name who you are now building this product on, you're regulated in some good ways, in some not very good ways. But you're regulated and all these things. And so I immediately trust you more. And if you're not a registered entity, then I say, okay, or the next question I ask is, are you building for Clout or with Clout? And if you're building for Clout, I really don't care. You're not. I do care. I think that's an arrogant way of putting it, but I care, but like, I care less, because I don't think your product is what's going to blow this platform up. But if you're building with Clout, if you're building a product that uses other things, attracts other audiences, but happens to work with Clout as well, I think that's where the key is. And this came up in the Discord today. There was an individual building a smart contracts platform. And I didn't look into the product at all. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I like looked at the website for like 2 minutes. But literally, he sent me it, and I read the website, and what I read a lot of was integrates with platforms like BitClout. And so I asked him, I said, very simple question. I said, are you building with Clout or for Clout? And he said, well, it depends, yada, yada. And I said, no, yes or no. Are you building with or for Clout? And he said, well, yeah, I guess we're building with. And I was like, all right, where do I put my money? Because like, literally, and I was bullish as hell, bro. Like, my messages, I was really like, I was like hyped, because that's what we need, man. That's what we need, I think.
Hunter, just for a second, we just stop on that point, right? Like, just for everyone watching, and even Alex is in the YouTube saying, good point, Hunter. We got Robin T that's saying Hunter is the man. So proud of him. So you got your little fan club, big fan club, man. It's like, we're all loving the H. Paulson. But on that, I just wanted to pause for a second, because, this is for a lot of people watching, this is a lot of information, right? This is kind of like big picture vision. Like, I love what you're saying and the way you speak. For some people, it can be a bit challenging to digest. I wanted to just stop on this one point that you've made here that I think is so vital. And it's almost like the anchor for the contemplation, which is, are you building for Clout or with Clout, right? This idea. So, if you're watching this live stream, right, it really is like, the difference in those two things is mammoth, right? One is looking at BitClout as being the home, the place you're trying to bring everyone to, the kind of...
This is my TA, my target audience.
Yeah. Whereas the other one is saying, well, you do whatever you like with bitclout.com, you do whatever you like with BitClout, but I've got something amazing that I can offer to the world that can use the function of the BitClout blockchain to facilitate it. And that product may never mention BitClout, right? It may never even be obvious that it's going to help the community. Yeah.
You bring up a phenomenal point. And I've used that a lot, right? Is that I've said this quite a bit. Prism, and this is kind of a segue-ish if you want to move that way now, but Prism doesn't say the word BitClout a single time in its source, on the site, nowhere, like literally nowhere to be found in our back end, front end, our server. You find it, well, not a server, we have a BitClout folder for the node, but nonetheless, you check, bro, the word BitClout does not exist because, and this is why I've said for a long time that Prism is, and I'll explain the product, but Prism, I've said for a while, Prism is the Instagram of BitClout, but I hate calling it that because it's not the Instagram of BitClout, it's just Prism. And that's kind of hard to digest, right? But it's like, okay, it looks like Instagram and it uses BitClout, but it's not the Instagram of BitClout. That's just like the really simple way of explaining it, right? So it's like, we're not Instagram and we're not for BitClout, but we look like Instagram and happen to use BitClout. So how do I explain this? And so, you know, I think it's valid in that, like, long term, and my CTO and I spoke today. We had a weekly meeting, or a mid-weekly meeting, sorry, and we had like this 2-hour conversation, and it's a normal meeting we have, but I have a whole section in my notes just about this event, right? And I was like, okay, how do we want to word things? Because I think that's a big part of it, right? And what it really came down to is, it's like, we're not a BitClout platform. We're a platform that uses BitClout. And I've said, uses Clout rather than for Clout a ton, but I never thought of it in a macro scale to put Prism into the picture, right? And we talked about long-term and what things look like. And dude, long-term, I don't want a single user on Prism to know that they're using BitClout, not a single one, because I don't think that's where the value's at. I don't think that's where the value's at. I think the value is in, and maybe I worded that poorly. It's like, obviously I want Clout as a protocol to grow. So if they know about it, maybe they can find more apps that use it, etc. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like, we're not a BitClout platform. We're just Prism. That's it. And we happen to use BitClout for some things. Like a lot.
So really, you're saying you want people to be focusing on Prism and its value proposition, what it's offering to the world on its own 2 feet, as opposed to needing everything to always come back to BitClout, right?
Which is how Web 2 works. Like, this isn't a new concept, right? Like you don't know what TCP is. You probably don't know about RSA encryption. Like, all the things that Zoom is doing right now for us to have this conversation, bro, like, it would be so hard to name all of these things. I'm an engineer.
It's magic, man.
Nearly name all of them. Right. And so, and there's a lot of standards and so many things and so many protocols and so many, all these things. And it's like, we don't know what they are from a user perspective. We're just using Zoom. It's pretty cool. I could talk to you. You could talk to me. We could see each other. Cool. That's all we care about. We don't care about the protocol. And
that's as simple as it needs to be for the outward customer, right?
It is. And I think that's what people forget about blockchains is that, well, not blockchains, but blockchains as we view them in terms of cryptocurrency, is that these are protocols. Bitcoin is a protocol. Ethereum is a protocol. Just the same way that HTTP is a protocol, TCP is a protocol. Like HTTP is what you use for websites and stuff, and TCP is what you use for like every other internet communication, including websites. But nonetheless, it's like, it's just a communication method. This time between servers that happen to run a blockchain rather than a server that happens to host a website. But if you think about it, it's the same thing. It's instead of one server hosting a database that contains some content, it's many servers hosting the same database that hosts the same content. It's just a distributed ledger. And it happens to be immutable, by the way. Right. And that's really the only difference. That's really the only difference. And so I don't know why we try to complicate it and say, like even BTC, like, I don't think it's that deep, right? I would say the same vision applies to BTC. The same vision applies to ETH. Well, BTC is a little more complicated, but for ETH, it's like your average Ethereum user doesn't have to know they're using Ethereum. Your average smart contract user doesn't have to know they're using Ethereum. Now, if you're a crypto nerd, of course you do. But if I build a utility token on top of ETH and you use that token, you don't know you're using ETH. Why would you? It doesn't matter. Yeah. Or even a platform that integrates with a smart contract behind the scenes, but isn't user facing. You don't know that I'm using and so that's the benefit here, is that Web 2 protocols and even Web 1 protocols are what we use day to day on the internet. Web 3 protocols just enhance that, make it distributed and make it decentralized. And that's it. It's not this huge like there's no platform involved. There's no like the internet doesn't have a platform. There's no internet.com. There's no like one use case for TCP/IP. There's just not, right? And cloud is the same way. It's a protocol. It's just that the same way that HTTP is used for web requests, cloud is used for social requests. And I think that's all it has to be. And we kind of overcomplicate it quite a bit.
No, that's such an important point to touch on, Hunter. I really appreciate it, man, and for breaking it down. And you know, if anyone was listening to that and you got a little overwhelmed, I really do recommend pausing, rewind the replay, and re-listen to that later, right? Because you know, you've given so much information to be digested that will change people's perspective in such a big way around.
And you have to have that change in perspective, right? I think two things really opened this up for me. One was I had a conversation with Jakey Dell, which was very, very slim. And the sort of summary of that conversation, because the details are kind of but the basic summary was, and this was about MetaLink, was that like, look, we're not building, like MetaLink was originally built on top of cloud. Now it's not. And I said to Jake, I forget the exact sentence I used, but I said to him something like, XYZ is bound to happen. And he said, yeah, but is it happening on BitCloud or Ethereum? And I said, it doesn't matter. We'll use both. It doesn't matter. We'll use both. And I think it's that simple. Right. And so for all the technical terms I used, look them up, rewind, look them up. But basically TCP/IP, HTTP, they're just protocols that are used for things, communication methods. That's it. And I think that's all cloud is. That's cool.
And so I think one of the things I had a bit of an aha moment the other day when I was sitting contemplating. And so I highly recommend with everyone with a big cloud, like don't just post, take a moment in your day to sit outside, looking at a bit of nature and actually dream about what's actually going on. Right? Give some space for that. Because if you're just charging to try and succeed at what you think BitCloud is, you're probably going to miss a lot of great opportunities. And one of the things that kind of dawned on me, Hunter, was that, you know, even if BitCloud collapsed, right? BitCloud.com, even if BitCloud.com, the social media, Twitter-like platform just went to shit, everyone went, I'm over this, I'm out, and they left, your BitCloud's still there. The BitCloud blockchain is still there. Anyone could come along with a great idea, take that blockchain, bring it back to life or put it into action and give it value again. And your clout continues to have value, continues to be something you can use in completely different worlds.
And that's why there's no risk. There's no associated risk with building with cloud. There is a risk building for cloud. And I think there's another important distinction is that if you build for cloud, you're building for our current community. That's it. That's your target audience is our current community. You're saying, okay, we're building a data analytics platform so you can do XYZ. Your target audience is the people right here now, or people here in the future. Or we're building a trading platform so you can trade credit cards. You're building for people here right now. And I don't think that's BitCloud is small, like tiny. I think you need to build your own user base and have them just happen to use cloud. And so if you're building with cloud, there's no risk. If BitCloud.com dies, okay. If this community falls apart, I don't care. Well, I do care, but in terms of like my product, I don't care. I don't care. The technology is still the same. I don't care if cloud is worth $1, if cloud is worth $1,000. I care personally, but business-wise, I don't care. It does not make a difference to me. The only thing it changes is fees, right? And so if BitCloud.com were to collapse, if the core team were to stop working on the protocol, okay. The fork button on GitHub is real easy to press. That's all I'm saying, right? And the technology is still there. All I have to do is run 2 nodes. That's it, right? And if I run 2 nodes, then they communicate with each other. Anyone can come along and communicate with them if they want to. So be it. But the important part is that my product is still using my 2 nodes and only my 2 nodes. And I only need it for write. I don't care what anyone else is doing. I only care what I'm doing. And so it doesn't matter what happens to the platform as it is right now from a development perspective. And I think this is important just to sort of finish off this point, because right now engineers, I think, are worried and even entrepreneurs are worried to build with cloud because it's sort of a like the Wild West, right? Like you don't know what your product will turn into. And the product market is flooded because so many people are building for cloud, not with cloud. And I think that once they realize there's really no risk, like if you know how to run like Docker containers, like it's really not, there's no risk. Like there's really no risk. The only risk is like the core team going rogue and doing stuff with trusted producers. Even then, the fork button on GitHub still exists. You roll back some transactions, it's not a big deal. And so nonetheless, the point is the technology is there. And whether it's a distributed blockchain or it's a centralized blockchain doesn't actually matter. And if you're building a product with Clout, right? Because if you think about it, like I'll use the middleman example again. If I'm communicating as a user with a product, and that product happens to be communicating with Clout, I don't necessarily care, depending on the product, if Clout is centralized or decentralized. The company cares because it's way cheaper if it's decentralized, or not in some aspects, but the company cares, but I really don't. And so if something terrible were to happen, astronomically terrible were to happen, the company doesn't really care, and neither do I, because their technology is the same. Their node is still running. It's still doing the same thing. All they would have to do is make themselves a trusted block producer and change some source, very minimal stuff. And now I can run the same product. It's just, okay, Tyne isn't running a node 2. Whatever, bro. I don't care if you verify my transactions. Like, it's not a big deal to me. I appreciate that you do, but like, I don't really mind, right? And so I think that's where people get caught up, is there's really no associated risk, like, at all. Or at least maybe I'm mistaken there, but like, from my perspective, there's no associated risk with using a blockchain like this over using a centralized database, like none at all. So I think there's only upside. And then
and so tell me, Hunter, as you're saying this, one of the things that came to my mind is feeling almost like there's many nuances to who uses BitClout, but there's two kind of main camps, right? There's almost like the developers and the builders, and then the marketers, right? The marketing department, right? And in a way, would it be correct to say, or at least in the right direction, that bitclout.com, because that's kind of where my work more is in, bringing awareness to different things, helping people connect and networking, doing this, having these conversations. So in a sense, bitclout.com is important to me right now because I need a place to be able to connect all those things, right? So, but that's really a marketing department, right? That's really, it's a temporary gate in a way for people to come and check out the early festival.
The thing is, though, like an interface, like I said, I don't think a Twitter clone will be what makes Clout reach mass adoption, but it will definitely exist. It will 100% exist. And I'm sure it will be fairly large. I don't think it'll be like the thing, but I don't think anything will be the thing necessarily. I think it'll be a lot of distributed projects, but I think that an interface like that will definitely exist. Social media apps will exist on BitClout. I'm just saying that the scope of this extends social media. I think the box that we're put in is social and finance. And I think that's it. I don't think the box is social media and finance. I don't think that's where it's at. I think it's just social. And I don't necessarily think people realize the magnitude of the difference there. But if you really, really think about it for a little while, you'll start to realize that our social interactions often don't contain media. They often aren't media worthy. Sending a text to your friend is a social interaction, right? And that wouldn't be, iMessage isn't social media. And I think that's an important thing to notice and pick up on and realize. And like I said, I think these social media platforms will exist. It's just not the box. And right now we're putting ourselves in a box. If you look at every single project right now, at least the ones I've seen, not every single, that's an exaggeration, but most that are built, even using Clout, which encompasses with Clout, are either doing one of two things. It's either a social media platform, or it's a platform that uses Clout's branding, but actually doesn't touch the protocol, or maybe uses identity, but doesn't touch the actual protocol. Right. And so like you see like voice call apps, right? Like I can't think of any specifics, and nor would I want to name them, but it's like, meeting apps and stuff. And it's like, well, you're using Clout in your name, but this has nothing to do. Like, I log in with my BitClout account, but you're not touching the protocol ever. Like, you aren't running a node. You aren't using you aren't touching the protocol at all. You're using a front-end identity API, and that's it. And so are you really a Clout product at all? Or like in this case, it's like, you got half of it right. You're not building for Clout, but even then you kind of are, because you're using the branding and such. But even if you aren't building for Clout, you're not even building with Clout. You're just marketing to Clout, right? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's basically like, okay, you reinvented the wheel and now you're marketing to the community. Thanks. And so, I just don't necessarily think that's where we're going to be long term.
I'm hearing you, man. I'm hearing you. And look, I think it's such an important thing to be said out loud, right? To be discussed. And again, coming back to this place of like the importance of mistakes, it's not even that important whether you're right or wrong in this, right? That's why I love having these conversations, because whether you're right or wrong, it's such an important perspective that needs to be considered, that's going to help sharpen everyone else's perspective and thoughts and visions for what they can create, and test, because now there's something to test. We can say, okay, let's take this proposition from Hunter. Let's take this content and let's test it.
I actually want to extend my previous thought just real quick. I said that Clout isn't a social media protocol, but rather a social protocol. And I'm actually going to backtrack on that and say Clout is a social and or media protocol. I think it can be a social protocol, a media protocol, or a combination of the both. And I think that's a lot more important than it might seem, but I thought about that for a minute. And I think once you draw the line through the center and maybe even add a cross to make it a plus, I think you sort of grow the scope of things to be a lot more accurate. And like I said, finance is right below. So social and or media, and then finance. I think that we put ourselves in this box. And like things like this is a great example, right? Like CloutForum doesn't actually use the protocol besides posting on BitClout, right? All the conversations are on Zoom. And obviously, because like you can't do this on a blockchain, it doesn't really exist. Well, like you could, but not on Clout. And so obviously there's limits, right? And so you're not using it as, because this is the social interaction, but you're using Clout as the media platform. And then this is our social interaction. So it's end or. You can use Clout for social and media interactions, just media interactions, a combination of the both. And I think all three options are equally important. So just wanted to backtrack real quick. Sorry.
Good contemplation, man. All right. Hey, Hunter, look, I'm just noticing the time, man.
For sure.
One day I want to be doing a long form podcast, because we could just sit for like 3 hours, go through all the universes, man. Let's do that someday, because I think it would be awesome just to go tap into all that. But being respectful
I love seeing my notifications go off of people tagging me. I love it. I love you guys.
It's a big shout out to everyone watching. Hey, on which note, Alex has popped in here in response to something you were saying earlier. Absolutely. If you focus on broader audience than BitClout, you bring more usefulness to BitClout as well, because their interflow between users happens.
Yep.
So it's reinforcing, right? There's real resonance with that. And so, thanks, Robin. And Robin just said, you two together are amazing. There you go, Hunter. We got to do it again. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to hear Hunter.
We got so much more.
Actually, it's
the
making
fun
a 24-hour
hasn't even started yet. This was supposed to be the context.
Yeah, right. All right. We've still got a lot more juice here. So before we go into that, I just want to do a shout out to everyone watching and say, hey, thank you for tuning to the live stream. Big shout out. We've got Nirvana here in the house, Marvin Voss, Rome in the house. We've got Mubs, Lisa with Wildography. Thanks for joining us in the Zoom. Now, anyone who's watching the live stream and the rest, we're about to, like Hunter, I'm about to start drilling into what your projects are and the rest, and getting into that, right? Like let's start drilling in there. But while we're doing that, I just want to invite everyone watching to, if you've got any questions or comments for Hunter, then, chuck them in the chat, chuck them in the YouTube chat. I'm gonna try and sort through on the rest, and we're gonna have some time after this to be able to put those to Hunter. So and I think we're gonna go a bit over our hour. You good to go over the hour today, Hunter?
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
I'll stay as long as you need me, man.
Awesome, man. So we're gonna have some space to really flesh this out. But so again, if you want to join us live, it's on CloutForum.org. And to start this off, this conversation, Hunter, I wanted to just open this up because I thought this was pretty sexy when I clicked on your project Prism, which, to be honest, I don't know that much. So I'm in a good position, I think, to ask the questions, right? Right? To have this. So I just wanted to share this to show people.
I love this.
Oh, I was going to say, I hope I didn't do anything wrong here.
I love it.
Do you know what I love?
It looks a little laggy on this screen, but it's so good. What's up?
Yeah, with the stream through. I love this. Sorry, where are we? Oops.
I know. That's been our tagline. That's been our tagline since March 31st. And I love it. I love everything about
your memories on your terms. Like, man, you have nailed on a pain point in the collective when it comes to social media, Instagram, all these things. That it's your memories on my terms, right?
Someone else made that. I'm not even a creative type. I just have the best friends.
So that's all. So tell me, what is Prism? What's going on here? Where did it come from? Introduce it to the world. What do you got?
For sure. So as a little bit of context, and then I'll explain. Prism has been around since March 31st, which is when we first crafted the idea. It was originally called Image Cloud, which is a painful name, but that was its original. It was called that until late May. And yeah, so it's been interesting. The idea started out, and I actually introduced it. Okay, so I have a company called SeismicCore, which is my web hosting company. We do web hosting and development and boring stuff like that. It's actually a lot of fun, but basically, since the beginning of the year, we wanted a product, and we offer a lot of services, but we wanted a product. And you know, I got on BitClout. I was here for like, I don't know, 10 days, 15 days. And I called my business partner and I said, you don't understand. This is huge. We got to build something, and we got to build it now. And I had already been playing with the API. I was one of the few people that were at the time. And I was like, we got to do this, and we got to do it quick. And what ended up happening was our idea grew. And what the idea was on that phone call was, okay, they made Twitter, let's make Instagram. That was the plain idea. It was that simple. It was, okay, let's toss some image, some image boxes up there, add the description in. We don't got to do any work. They handled all the back end. All we got to do is the front end. Very, very simple stuff. And it, of course, just grew from there because that idea wasn't very good. But, you know, 15 days into the platform, that John was gold, right? So it grew. Eventually, we realized that there was a lot more opportunity here. And so, because originally this year, we were going to create like an investing game platform, and I posted about that. It was a failed project, but, you know, we realized there was a lot more opportunity here. So we said, okay, we're going to create a new company. It's going to be a corporation. We're going to be a legitimate startup. We're going to raise funding. We're going to grind this out. And so that was there. My business partner and same business partner from SeismicCore for Prism originally. And then what happened is we ended up bringing on the original. Our current CTO for Prism is like one of my biggest mentors in engineering. He's fucking awesome. I love the kid. He's 17, so a year older than I am. Brilliant kid. Basically, just for like a very, very tiny bit of context, don't want to get on too much of a tangent, but when I started programming, I was using Python, and I basically did it because this company, I was in their Discord. It was like stupid, and they had a lot of bots, and I was like, I'm going to make you a bot. And I thought it was going to be a drag and drop website, and then I had to code it. So I learned how to code. It's basically the start of my career, but I was using Python. I didn't know how databases work. I was using JSON files, and he was like, hey, Python sucks. Use JavaScript. Here's how databases work. And him and I worked together for the next year and a half. And so I started SeismicCore, like what SeismicCore became. I started that with him. And then, of course, when SeismicCore became a company and all that, it was with my current business partner over there. But he came on, and he was going to be just an employee of Prism. He was going to help us with some technical things because we just needed help. While I was on vacation in June, basically it just got overwhelming for my business partner. And, you know, obviously he has his day job. He has like a life. He's a young adult and a lot of things to deal with on that front. And so it just got to be too much. So instead we decided, okay, he exited the company, and now it's just myself and my CTO. And then we registered, and we've been moving since then. So that's sort of the context. And the reason I share that is because this isn't a new project. And it's interesting that like back in like April, beginning of April, even maybe mid-April, like if you said Image Cloud, like everyone knew what you were talking about. Most people, because it was so small. And literally, dude, I did this like Discord stage event when the things first came out. It was big and everything like that. So, but now we're to the point where like not many people know what it is. And I think that's phenomenal because we've spent all of our time building and no time marketing. And now I'm doing all the marketing. So, which is great. So yeah, what is Prism is the question. And I sort of hinted at this a little bit earlier. So Prism is not the Instagram of BitClout. And I'm proud to say that because that's what I've said for a very long time, since March, is Prism is, or at the time, Image Cloud is the Instagram of BitClout. And it's not, like I detailed earlier. It is an Instagram-ish like kind of platform that happens to use cloud. And so what do we offer? What do we provide? What like actually is it without the semantics? So Prism is a social platform, or rather a social experience, is what we like to call it, which integrates a lot of things that you already know, but they're together and they're unique and they're new and they're creative. So on the front face, it's sort of like Instagram. We have image-based posts, video uploads, music uploads, fun stuff like that. And that's what you see on your homepage, right? You're scrolling through, you see your media and such like that. And at the moment, so I'm going to explain what the product will be like long-term, like vision stuff first, and then I'll explain what our prototype release will be, because they're different worlds completely. So what I'm explaining now is our full release, our main release, our vision, etc. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of your main page. Where the magic happens, though, at least what we think the magic happens, is in messaging. And we're doing big, and like I said, it's a social experience, not a social media platform. And the difference lies, in my opinion, in DMs. I think DMs, or we call them messages, not even DMs, because DMs is lame, but I think messages is huge. So a couple things that Prism will have in messages. First of all, fully encrypted messages. Think like a key base, like a Telegram. Secure. We like security. Security is pretty epic. So our company, we do. Now, long term, and the sort of product that I'm explaining, like I said, is long term. We won't necessarily. You will have a Prism account. You won't log in with BitClout. You will connect your BitClout account if you want to. You will connect your Ethereum address by signing a transaction if you want to. And various other things, but you won't log in with BitClout because it's not a BitClout product. And I think that's important. And so rather, we will use BitClout for some parts of direct messaging, some parts of, most parts of posts, most parts of post transactions and things like likes and such, but we won't use it for your account. Like most of the message data, but they're still centralized databases, sort of. So in messages, just to name some of the features that we'll have. Of course, groups, all of your basic stuff that you can expect. Groups, sending images, videos, GIFs, posts, fun stuff like that. Because it integrates Clout, you'll also be able to do financial things in messages like Apple Pay has, like sending your homie some Clout or even some Ethereum if you sign a transaction, and things like that. But where the fun happens is in our games API and our interactive API. And this isn't built yet. It's not going to be on our prototype. And in fact, messages are completely excluded from our prototype because of this. And I mentioned this way back in June, but our messaging API is pretty sexy. I'm not going to lie to you, or at least the concept and the design docs that we've created thus far. So some things we're going to integrate, games, like I'm talking iMessage style games, but better. They can rely on a server. They use a graphical API that basically uses, on the web, it uses a canvas, on native, it uses some other things, but interactive things, not even just games, but interactive things within messages. And so say, for example, this is the example we used at our meeting today, just because I think it's a funny one. Say, for example, me and you, Mark, wanted to play a poker game. And we didn't want to just play poker, but we have Clout in our wallet and we don't have anything else to do with it. So we wanted to bet with some Clout. So we could do that. And it's perfectly legal. We're not collecting any fees. So basically, we would in-house, or a third-party developer, it'd be completely open, would develop this game using our graphical API. So, so you know how like Telegram bots work or Discord bots work? It would be similar. You would have a server, you would use a bot, but that bot would not only have text ability where it can send messages, but it would also have visual ability where it can display you some cards in a card game. And the bot knows what the center cards are, and the players don't, but they know what their cards are, and it displays that to you. And you can play games and all kinds of other interactions. I think that because we're opening it up to third-party developers, the opportunities there are sort of huge, and even incomprehensible, like what people could do. So the first couple, we're probably going to call them interactions. I don't know yet, but that's like the in-house name right now. The first couple interactions will be a couple games that we're going to make in-house, just as like proof of concept type things almost. And then anyone can come build, get an API key and make their own thing inside messages. And I think that's cool. And it's sort of like iMessage, like I said, where you have that visual component, in iMessage, but it's more than that because now you can integrate a server at a larger scale than you can on iMessage. So that's one thing we integrate as well. But it expands way past just games and things like that in messages, because, like I said, all of our things are encrypted. And so it's like, well, how does that work? So essentially, the way that interactions will work is, so if you've ever used Keybase, it's kind of a similar model. I discovered Keybase recently, and it's sort of similar to what we're doing. And that messages are like overly secure, like way more secure than users need them to be. But the user doesn't know they're actually secure. And that's the good thing. And we'll boast about it, of course. But and you'll notice that's sort of a premise with me and with the product, is that the user has a lot of things they don't know they have, and they're all beneficial, like using a decentralized protocol for their posts. They're not going to know that like that's a thing. They're just going to post on Prism, and it happens to go on BitClout, but they're posting on Prism. And oh, by the way, everything you post is decentralized besides images, but everything you post content wise is decentralized. And of course, we'll have your common things on the front face, like stories and all that good stuff. But like I said, the magic right now, at least, is in the messages. And so basically for interactions, one cool thing that we've sort of added, and Keybase does this as well, is that the bots on Telegram or on Discord can see, maybe not Telegram, I take that one back, but on Discord at least, they can see every single message you send in a Discord server, every single one that they have permissions to. So like if you add it to a general chat, they can see every single message in that general chat, no matter what it is. Rather, since our messages are encrypted, only you have the encryption key. So what we do for interaction messages, so maybe like a command or a game message, is we encrypt them with a key that the bot can read and decrypt. And so, and like I said, Keybase does the exact same thing. And so essentially your groups, even your private DMs, your group DMs, anything, they're still private. We can't see them. No one looking at the BitClout blockchain can see them. Even the interactions that you use can't see them. And I think that's a large benefit as well. It's nice and secure. It's nice and private, all good, fun stuff. Long-term, like really long-term-ish, we'd like to add voice features as well, the fun stuff like that. But that's not really like in the roadmap right now because there's a lot of stuff on our plate at the moment.
Absolutely.
But yeah, a ton of fun stuff.
I mean, straight away, the pain point of the message, like, because obviously, look, I'm a massive BitClout fan, sure. As you know, it's got it in the skin. It's but it's the blockchain, right? It's the blockchain that I'm believing in. And when it comes to bitclout.com, for what they've created, it's going incredible considering what they've done. But one thing that I think we can all agree on, the messenger app is shit. People forget to even check it, right? It's like a lot of the time it's like, and that's not bagging them out. I mean, like they're working on the blockchain, right? They're creating a proof of concept.
The thing is, Mark, the technical implications here are here. They're huge. They're hard. And the thing is, right now on Clout, like the things I mentioned are not possible by just using Clout. And so there's a lot of intermediary things that occur. And I mentioned this earlier, where the user uses the product uses Clout rather than the user using Clout. And that's sort of what this is, in that the Prism speaks with Clout for messages. The user doesn't necessarily speak with Clout for some things. There's that's not like it doesn't apply globally. There's, like I said, a lot of technical things here, but in some cases it's okay. The user sends X and to Prism, and Prism puts it on the blockchain, and then Prism communicates with the blockchain, who then communicates with its users. And so think like, instead of you and me having BitClout accounts, the product has a BitClout account, and it uses metadata to determine who that data belongs to. And it still can actually read that data. So some complicated things. Basically, on the technical side, it would be like if I form, we then put it on a blockchain and signed it again. So on a blockchain, it's encrypted. And if you decrypt it, which the product would do. So say I open my messages, I would request the product would decrypt it from the blockchain, send it to you, and your client, or like the website, the app you're viewing, would decrypt it from the product. And the product doesn't know what your message is. We can't see your messages. The bots can't see your messages. The blockchain can't see your messages. You can see your messages. Your friends can see your messages, and no one else. And I think that's a very important aspect. Privacy matters. And so I love that. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, a lot of technical things there. Another thing long term that I'd like to mention is that, like I said, Prism is its own teal. It's not BitClout. And so, eventually what we would like to have is Prism posts being on the blockchain, but not necessarily, or not forcing them to be BitClout users. So maybe you join Prism and you don't want to buy this cryptocurrency. That doesn't make sense. So instead, you just use Prism and your posts are on the blockchain. You don't have to know it, but they are. And like I said, it uses that same intermediary process where you send it to the product sends it to the chain, and the product communicates with the chain, who then communicates with you. And then there's a ton of metadata involved that determines who belongs to what, etc. But the main point is that you long-term won't have to own BitClout to use the platform. And you might say, well, doesn't that damage Clout because then you aren't really using Clout? But no, we are, because we still have to own Clout to pay for fees. We still have to interact with the blockchain. It's still the same amount of transactions going on the blockchain. It's just we happen to also have a third database, or a second database once Postgres is fully implemented, that stores replicated data. And so there's really no downside to doing it this way.
So in a sense, you're expanding the market potential in a way from people that are willing to being anyone can, and we're still going to benefit BitClout blockchain by the actual transactions themselves.
What it comes down to is, do you have an email? Like it's that simple, right? It's not, okay, I'll give you $10, but you need to have an ID. You need to be 18. No. It's, or the other option is, okay, you still need to be 18. You still need to have an ID, and you can buy with blockchain.com and bro, no, even Coinbase, you still need KYC. None of that. It just doesn't make sense. At least in my opinion, for every user of a social platform to have to own a currency. It just doesn't work, right? Like if I go to school, and really our target audience is like 14 to 25-ish, right? Because that's the people that post a lot for the posting side of things. And then I'm excluding the chat side of things, because really it's two separate products. If you kind of think about it, it's really one product it's two products that become an experience, is the way I like to put it. And then there's a service there as well.
So would you say in a similar way, not to say the sinly words, but it's like Facebook and Facebook Messenger are two different.
This is the way I described it. This is the way I described it to my CTO was look, like what did I say? I said Instagram and Facebook Messenger are two different apps for a reason. They're not one thing, because they're separate, and we're going to make them one thing, right? But they're still separate in that you can, or it's a good thing that they're together though, I think, because the thing is like, you can message your friends, click on their profile, and then go see what they posted today. And I think that's cool, right? And there's so many other things there, and a lot of other things we'd like to implement. Like I said, NFTs are on the big back burner. You probably won't see NFTs on Prism for a while, because the average person does not care about NFTs. Dude, I have probably spent a total of like 9 hours of my life explaining NFTs to people my age. Like they just don't get it. It is because, or even older people don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. Like I always use the Mona Lisa, like, oh, well, it's like the Mona Lisa. If you take a picture of it, you don't own it, but you do. Like that person still owns it, even though you printed it out. But it's like NFTs aren't the Mona Lisa, and it doesn't work. And so it's complicated, and people are like, dude, you're spending thousands of dollars on JPEGs that you could just download. I'm like, yeah, I'm spending $1,000 on JPEGs. Right. And so
I think just quickly here, Hunter, I think it's good to clarify for everyone as well that might be listening to this, that when you're talking about the everyday person, it can be very easy to forget that we can be in a very crypto bubble, like on BitClout. People that are obviously they've got onto BitClout, which means they've had a crypto experience. They've had there's all these things that get them to that point, right? And it's just reminding that when you say everyday people, we're talking about the billions of people on the planet, right, that can make use of this. Not the crypto community, but the whole world.
Yeah, and the thing is, people say, and even I've said, I'm sure, like, oh, BitClout isn't crypto focused because most of the people here, this was their first cryptocurrency. But like, yeah, that's the point. This was their first cryptocurrency. They've owned a cryptocurrency. They've learned about how they work.
Still a cryptocurrency.
That is the point. So the level of entry is owning a cryptocurrency, knowing how they work, or even not knowing how they work, but being kind of forced to learn how they work. And there's certain things like when our prototype releases, we'll have creator coins. I don't know that they'll stick around that long, to be completely honest, because I don't really think they make that much sense. But Or maybe they will. I don't know. It really depends. And this sort of segues into our prototype release and why it exists and what it is. So our prototype release, which was initially called Private Alpha, initially what we were going to do, we were going to release on July 19th. We collected a list of users on a wait list, and we manually decided which users were going to be allowed and which weren't, based on what value we think they'd bring to what we're actually testing. Because when you consider it, let me explain what the prototype is. That way that sentence will make a lot more sense. So the prototype is essentially the initial idea that we had back in March. It is Instagram of BitClout, and like that's kind of it, which isn't great. It's definitely not our best work. Don't get me wrong. And a few reasons why. One, all the things I mentioned about chat are really, really, really hard to implement, and they take a lot of time. And so we're working on that. But the more important sort of reason is one, a lot of this summer was exploring cloud, exploring how will products work. We've been building, of course, but it's been a lot of research. R&D still has two parts. It's research and development. And so, it's been a lot of that and a lot of exploring. I think I've asked every single kid in my grade at this point, what is 3 problems on social media that you have? And honestly, all of that, like my entire Excel spreadsheet that I have right now of problems on Instagram is worthless to me now, because our main product isn't about that. And so I should be asking, what don't you like about iMessage and things like that? But that's okay, right? Because we're still incorporating parts of social media, but we're really a social experience, which is what I wanted to sort of nail in the coffin here. Is we're not a social media and we're not a social app, but we're a social experience. We're a place where you can come and chat with your friends, play games with your friends, call them, hang out with them. You can see what they're doing day to day with stories. You can see their cool photography with posts, all these things. You can send your friends some money for gas or for paying for your lunch on one platform. And I think that's important. And I think that could be pretty big, or at least I hope
Absolutely.
So. Building it.
And I think that word experience, that's another one I just want to pause on for a second for everyone. Like, a social experience, right? As opposed, and I was just going to say, as we're going forward, just quickly, Hunter, that as we're going forwards in the world, like we're watching, jobs disappear, we're watching universal basic income start sneaking in, we're watching automation, robots, all these things are coming in, right? And what I'm starting to really like, where my love is, this is why I love virtual reality, AR and all the rest, is I think the real benefit we're going to be able to start creating in the future is experiences, like really bringing life, like economics into experiences where you can earn money through experiences as well as spend money through experiences, right? That it actually becomes almost like a job to have experiences, which is quite ironic because that's what we came here for as humans in the first place, right? Not to work in a factory. So I just love that you use that word.
I love saying that. I became a founder, so I didn't have to work 9 to 5. So instead I could work 12 to 12. 24 hours a day, baby, all the time.
Now you get to just experience at 12 to 12.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And that's a cool thing, is that there's a large difference. I actually saw a Dharmesh video that Reed posted, and it encompasses this exactly. And I was saying it prior, but it encompasses exactly as that. Why can Starbucks charge $12 for a coffee? It's because they're not selling you a coffee. They're selling you a coffee and a lounge chair and Wi-Fi and an outlet and a restroom and a place with white noise to do your work. They're selling you a work or even productivity experience. They're not selling you a coffee. And that's an important thing. Or like Amazon. It was also in the video. It's like Amazon is not selling you a product. They're selling you a buying experience. You're getting delivery. You can track your packages. You can, like, Amazon would be a service if they connected you with a seller, but that's not what they do. They connect you with a seller, let you track your packages, let you get it in 2 days, let you review the product, read reviews, ask questions on the product. It's an experience. It's not just a service. And I think that's where something grows, right? And I think that's why it's important to say, like, this isn't a social media app. This isn't a social media at all. It's a social experience.
Just to clarify on that, with the app aspect, I mean, this is going to be an app that you have on your phone, yeah?
100%. Yep.
Will it start there, or will it start web-based?
We're going to start on web. Our prototype will be web. A couple reasons. One, like I said, our prototype is really bare bones. Like, don't get first impressions. Save those for our full product, please. Like, I beg. Or even like a beta, like this isn't even an alpha. This is like before that, right? It's literally a prototype of, okay, does this like work remotely? And it's not even, we're mainly testing at this point. How will people use it is our main curiosity. Our main curiosity is like, is there anything, because the foundation is still, even though we're integrating chat, we're integrating all these things, the foundation is still, okay, how will people use a decentralized social platform or product? And then we scale and become a centralized experience, right? Not a decentralized experience, I'm sorry, a social experience. And so we sort of need that baseline of how will people use this? And like I said, it's really the original idea that's sort of coming to life. And we have a lot of technical implementations as well. Like, we've been waiting for Postgres for ages, and it's still not where we'd like it to be. When it's fully there, when the blockchain actually uses Postgres, then we'll be able to write our backend effectively. Like, we have somewhat of a backend, but we can't implement it very well. Like, we just can't. We need the technicals. Another roadblock is like CIPs. We have a CIP right now for a source flag that designates where a post came from. And like, we need that, or we don't. And you just need to tell us, we're not adding this, figure it out. And we'll figure it out, no problem. But like, we need a yes or a no. We're not going to build something super hacky and complex for you to say, oh yeah, we'll build that, no problem. You know? And so there's some things there, and those are really annoying. And I think almost that's sort of the reason why, well, we started talking about a lot about DMs. And I've said for a while that like, I want to smash DMs out of the fucking park, like out of the park. I even said that in a post back in June. I said, look, full transparency, we're not releasing with DMs because DMs, the technical limitations of DMs right now, strictly using the protocol, are shit. They're just not good. And we're going to make them better, but we need a lot more time for that. And so, you know, like I said, consider this as strictly a prototype. It is not an alpha. It is not a beta. It is not nearly the full release, but it's just a prototype. And I think it's important to mention that because, you know, it's a very, very simple product, and it's for very, very simple testing purposes. Like Absolutely. Everything is front end right now. We're running a node, but it's not really doing anything different than the core team's node does, because the backend source is terrible, bro. Like, you have no fucking idea. It's so bad. And we're going to build our own custom backend that integrates with the database, because I don't have time to deal with that, bro. No, the core's backend is just not good. And, you know, obviously we want our own infrastructure anyway, but those things take time. And obviously, you know, it's easy to say, well, it's already been 6 months. You had time, but really a lot of that is the R part of R&D. It's been a lot of research, a lot of getting to know this platform. And I think here's the other benefit is that, you guys know who I am. You guys know that I'm on this platform, not only for personal reasons. I like it. This is my only social media. But also for like research purposes. Like, I have to understand, because the initial target audience, well, not target, but the initial audience will be BitClout users by default, right? Because it's going to be really easy for me to hop on BitClout and say, hey, here's my product, come check it out, right? It's going to be a lot easier. It's going to be really easy to do that. Whereas for our actual user base, we have to build that. And that takes time, just like with any product. And so, you know, I sort of have to, from a business perspective, let alone my personal reasons for using the platform, understand how this community thinks and what this community wants, because we have to provide that first, I think, is sort of my thought process. So there's a lot that goes into it. We're working hard. We have been. I know it doesn't really look like it. And our release, our prototype won't really show it either, to be completely honest with you. Because, and you know, maybe I'm just bumming it down because I know what our full product will be like, and this is not that. But I still think it's a good foundation, and I think that, you know, it's a good place. My co-founder and I are both young, and we're both working our asses off, and I think it'll definitely pay off. I'm excited for when Prism will be a household name, not just in the BitClout community. Think hard about that one, but look, dude, we're here to play, and our idea has scaled magnitudes at this point. So we're excited. That's sort of what it looks like. As far as our prototype release, I won't give a specific date, because the date I gave previously completely failed, because basically we found a lot of issues in our front end, because like I said, we had a founder change in the very beginning, and our previous founder wrote the whole front end, and then We did a ton of stuff happen, but basically we had some issues and we couldn't release, and that was fine because we basically changed the entire idea in that same moment. And so it was totally cool because that's when it really went from, at that point it was Instagram, but it has NFTs and it's not really Instagram and some other things. And then we said, okay, we were going to do some cool stuff with chat, like groups and GIFs, but no, we need to make this mental. And that's sort of what we've done. And
so you've really taken a bigger vision rather than just rushing to get something out short term. And so what you're releasing now in this prototype is just to spark people's imaginations, to make it, we can start continuing the conversation. Plus, as you're saying, it gives you an opportunity to see, like, it's one of those things, we can theoretically talk about how something's going to work in a laboratory, but you don't know what's going to happen until you put it out in the world and see the response, right? It's like with the vaccines and everything else. It's only when it goes into the field.
What a common theme has been, Mark, is we learn from experience and we learn from trying things. And we've talked about that a lot tonight. And it's the same thing. We can't build this whole experience and then release it and say, okay, let us know what you think. Like, no, we're not going to do that. That doesn't make sense. There's a lot of research that goes into this, right? And you sort of have to look at the psychology of things. And I'm not here to build a social platform that sucks. I'm just not. A lot of what I've asked people my age is, what do you hate about social media? And I hear answers that are so different, bro. Like, there's millions of things. I'm telling you, there's so many things. And one of the main things I focused on is ethics, right? A lot on ethics, both behind the scenes and user facing. So ethics, security wise, like I said, messages, we can't see what you're talking about. Bro, you could be talking about some wild, crazy shit that like we would normally disallow. I don't fucking know what you're talking about. It's not stored on my server. I don't fucking care. It's sort of the approach we're taking, right? And it's like, sure, that could be used for bad, but I think it leads to a lot more good than it does bad. And the user doesn't even know. Like we're not going to tell the user, hey, your messages are way more secure than they probably have to be. The user doesn't fucking care, but they are. And so that's a behind the scenes ethics thing. But there's more to that, where it's like a complete opposite side of that, where it's social rather than technical. Is, I've been asking so many people, what is your problem with social media? Like, what don't you like about it? And what I hear is eating disorders. I hear addiction to infinite scroll. I hear all this shit. And I also hear bans and things like that, the things that decentralization fixed. And I mostly ignore those because I'm like, yeah, we got that one covered, chief. But a lot of the ethical things where it's like, okay, social media, I think could be very good, but I think right now it's very bad. And that's why I don't use it. Look at BitClout, go through the following feed, go through the global feed, and just look at comments, and go through Twitter's trending page and look at comments, bro. Like, they are night and day. And I think that might possibly change with user growth. But for right now, I think that we're in a good spot, and I'd like to facilitate that with growth, which I think is almost impossible, which is why I want to do it. But basically, I want to make sure that this platform that we're building is great to chat, is great to hang out. It's great to do all these things, but it's also, I hate using the word safe space. That sounds so soft, but it's a safe place where you can just like post what you're doing on a Saturday afternoon, like post a picture of you and your friends hanging out, and you don't have to worry about getting shit. Like, you don't have to worry about it. I want to facilitate an environment where, or an experience, even, since I love that word, where you don't, like, it's just pure social. And I think a lot of the negative interactions, the macro problems that exist on social media, are actually solved by removing the media part of social. And that's much deeper than it sounds on the surface. So think about that one for a little while, but
I think that's going to be a podcast of its own, my friend. Like, that's you're right. That's a deep contemplation.
It is, right?
Because we've just kind of taken it for granted, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, especially for those people that are listening to the upload, think about that one. Because I think that matters a lot. And I think that's where a lot of the aha comes in, right? And I think we have a lot of power when it comes to building with decentralized protocols. And I think that a lot of the bad that could occur on a decentralized protocol is also fixed by the good that occurs on a decentralized protocol. So like I said, there's a lot of, and really Prism will sort of be like the CDFI of social. CDFI is centralized, decentralized finance, which seems like an oxymoron because it is. But like Binance Smart Chain, for example, is CDFI.
Gotcha.
It'll basically be centralized, but also decentralized social, in that the content that you post will be decentralized. It'll be on the BitClout blockchain. But the interface you use and, like I said, you won't necessarily post that under a BitClout account. Maybe you post it under one of many Prism accounts that happen to hide them and use a ton of metadata to do things there. And maybe we encrypt them so we can add private accounts, another fun thing. So there's a lot of things at play here. And there's a lot of technical limitations, but the design docs are there. A design doc, for those of you that don't know, is a document used a lot by engineering teams to basically craft an idea, but go beyond the idea. So it's like, okay, you have this idea, but like, is it possible? Does it make sense? Does it make sense right now? All these things. And the design docs are there in that, we think it's possible. Well, we're pretty positive all the things that I've mentioned here are possible with our current technical limitations and even with future ones. So yeah, we're in a good spot. Like I said, I think we're really adding the Web3, but also keeping the Web2. And I think that's an important thing, which is why we're Prism Web3 Inc., because at heart, we're a Web3 company. So,
man, I think you've done really well, really, really well in the way you've branded that up. And yeah, with the, like you say, the Web3, and I love the fact that what you're providing here really is a practical solution to issues that people really have. It's one thing that, especially when you focus on the messaging, etc. Like, I think Facebook Messenger was one of the worst experiences I've ever had with the messaging thing. Personally using it, it's like, right. And everyone's got different ways of using different things. I find WhatsApp is really convenient and easy to use. I don't like that Facebook own it, right? And I don't. And then so there's all these different things.
The thing is, Mark, Facebook owns it. That's the point, right? Is that
exactly.
Like I said, like, we physically cannot read your DMs. Like, I don't care what you send. We can't see it. We can maybe see, okay, you sent a game or you used this interaction, but like, that's it. And even that data might be encrypted. Like, it's really like, we don't know. And it's security by obscurity, or not security by obscurity, but it's sort of trust by obscurity almost, in that we trust that a majority of people will use this for good. And if you don't, we don't really care because we don't know about it. So keep it to yourself. I don't care. You can have your DM conversations, but at the end of the day, most people are going to just be having a conversation. And I think that's really the frame of decentralization too, is that, like, sure, you could do bad things with it, but you don't. And so,
hey, Hunter,
having Facebook own like every messaging platform is kind of, but
not a great thing. No, absolutely, man. Hey, Hunter, I'm recognizing the time. We've got a couple of people, I think, that had a couple of questions here for you.
Sure, I'd love to answer.
So we've got, so Nirvana, did you have a question you wanted to come on screen to ask? And I tell you what, while you're, oh, there you are. Hey, Nirvana here. Let me just bring you on the spotlight.
No, I'm just here to support Hunter and Rome. I was watching Rome do his artwork that he normally does for CloutForum. So I don't know if he wants me to say what it is. I don't want to give away, but no, I don't have any questions. It was a great discussion tonight. I love listening to you guys, and you always do a great job, Mark.
Thank you. I tell you, Nirvana, it really makes it easy when I've got such great guests and awesome audience to fuel the conversation.
Good. It's good seeing
thanks,
you, Mark.
Yeah, likewise. Oh, thanks for sharing that. All right, so while we're there, Rome, do you have something you want to put on screen, my friend? All right, let me bring you up on Spotlight.
All right. Let me turn it around here.
There it is. Hey. So everyone watching, this is Rome does these, Rome does these awesome characters and artworks of the interview guests as they're happening. So this is yours, Mr. H. Paulson.
No shots.
There you go.
How sweet is that?
I love it. That's awesome. Yo, Rome, you're the GOAT, bro.
You're welcome. Thank you, my
awesome.
dude. Y'all are the best.
It.
Enjoyed the discussion as always.
No,
that's
you're a beautiful
legendary,
man.
bro.
Hey, Rome, we really appreciate you, man. Like Hunter, Rome has been here from the beginning of the CloutForum. He's, I first met Rome in Nacho Average Call and Nirvana as well. And he has just been coming. He started doing these just because he loves creating art. And it was such a beautiful thing to get to the end of an interview and see that, right? How cool is that?
That's fucking awesome, bro. I love you, bro. That's good shit.
Nice. And so, Rome, we got to make sure that those are getting, because Hunter, maybe you've got some ideas of how, because basically Rome, if he could turn these into NFTs or something like that and get some ideas of how he can convert this, because obviously these use
how much for a
art,
physical copy, bro? I'll put that shit on my wall.
We'll talk.
Okay.
There's a conversation.
Okay.
You guys do that.
Okay.
Make sure you let us know what happens. That'd be awesome, Hunter, because Rome has been doing so much, and one of the core things that BitClout was kind of bringing as a proposition for artists was an ability to create and then actually kind of make some clout that you can then buy some new paints with, right? That you can buy some new canvases with, and so that's where we kind of want to help Rome get to that space.
This already exists, and I don't think people realize it. The laptop I'm talking to you on right now, Clout Gains, whole thing. Paul bought a laptop, Clout Gains, whole thing. And not even Clout Gains. Paul bought his machine on NFT gains alone. And it's helping him create photos because he can render videos easier and things like that. And so the content he's making as NFTs, he can now create easier with the machine he bought with NFT gains. So it's really coming full circle already, just like the vision provides. And I love that. I love it so much.
Awesome. Well, definitely. Rome, Hunter, you guys talk. Rome, thanks again, man. You're a champion. Now, I have...
real quick, just to close. I really appreciate all you guys that came out. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys always. Thank you guys for listening, especially to my Prism talk there. I know we talked a lot of philosophy and stuff tonight, which is great. So yeah, I'm excited to release. Just keep updates, keep tabs on my profile. The Prism page on BitClout will also post, but that's kind of like just there. But yeah, we're very excited. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, appreciate you guys, and have a good night.
Hunter, you're a super champ, man. Like, it's been so much fun having a chat. Like, I'd love it if you come in when we begin season 2 with CloutForum and we can just
anytime, bro. Anytime,
man. That'd be awesome. Let's do this. Big shout out to everyone that's been watching live. Wildography, Rome. We've got Robin T in the YouTube. Hey, Robin, I didn't get to actually, there's some questions she did ask, but they were kind of related to the moment of the conversation that I wasn't quite catching because I was in the conversation. Robin, if you can next time, jump into the Zoom room live. That's where it's a lot easier for me to take those questions live to make sure Hunter sees them as well. So, but I just wanted to do a shout out. Thanks for interacting so much. Interacting on the platforms, helping share this out there. It's going to help CloutForum, really keep building the brand, keep building. Like, we haven't, opened the coin, things like that. Alex is doing some amazing work in the back end, creating the business proposition and the things. So we're doing this responsibly, building. So soon you'll be hearing some news, but in the meantime, we're just going to keep on bringing the best people we can find, that are creating and doing amazing things, and just everyone, just keep this conversation going, right? And keep exploring as we go forwards. And whenever there's mistakes, we love to help sort them out when they come on here. So Hunter, it's been a lot of fun, my man.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, everyone. And enjoy the break before Clout starts going wild.